Cancelled.
Schweezy.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
So we have the Marvel Double feature today. So we got to talk just Loki season 2 and the finale, and then the Marvels both aired the same day. One on your home TV and the other in your someone else's TV. Movie theaters probably. Loki season 2. I'm going to talk about that first, then we're going to talk about the Marvels, and then before we talk about the Marvels, I'll give everyone there'll be a timestamp in the description, and I'll put one on screen too eventually, whenever that works out. But Loki season 2, definitely the best Marvel show. Definitely the best Marvel show that they're making, and probably I'm gonna be real surprised if they ever outdo the Loki. It's always like the ones like the MCU shows that are clearly the ones like doing the best are the ones that are thinking outside the box. Whereas like WandaVision, like you didn't know what the fuck was going on, but you always thought somehow it's gonna lead into Doctor Strange 2. And it did in the worst way possible. This show is just like, it's the multiverse. And at a point, like, the rules are all made up, Whereas, like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like, you kind of guess that, like, oh, they're probably going to beat the villain. I feel like the two guys that helped defeat Thanos could probably defeat Carly Morgenthau. I don't know, this Flag Smashers. It's like a lot of the stuff, it's just very, very, there a lot of them are good, but like they're just like, I don't know. I think we just compare them to other Marvel movies, but Loki, the show, it is its own thing. So let's just, I'm gonna go over each individual episode in the show, and talk about it. And you're like, spoiler alerts, like it's all, you can watch it at home. Like if you can watch it at home on your home TV, I don't care. I don't have a Disney Plus subscription. I'm like, I don't know, man. Figure it out. Figure out how to get a free trial. So no excuses. Okay. So we end from like season 1 ended, how it ended. Sylvie, Loki's variant that he's Loki's hot variant. I like to just call, instead of a Loki variant, just hot Loki. That's what Sylvie is, hot Loki. And then So basically Loki kills He Who Remains, aka a variant of Kang the Conqueror, as and stuff like that. And then she pushes our Loki, through a time door. And like the show ends with like B-15 and Mobius not knowing who Loki is, and so very interesting there. And then you see a statue of basically Kang at the TVA, and then eventually he time slips. So we learn that Loki is time traveling through the TVA, which they did not think was possible. So in that first episode, Loki has to like basically get pruned, and then once he's pruned, his temporal aura will be back to him. I don't know, something similar like that, and they make it. And then you find out Sylvie is just working at McDonald's now. McDonald's probably put in some money, and you were like, oh my god, that's the bag from Loki. Every time I go to McDonald's now. She just now wants a normal life. So yeah, that's what happens and shit like that. And everyone's like figuring out, just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? So then we get to episode 2. Basically, Hunter X5, or who we call Brad, decided to hop on and have his own life, which, he just had to, he was like, I think I'm just going to have a life. And he became a famous movie star. It's not Brainiac, it's something similar to that. But, they basically have to, like, capture him and to try and get information of where Sylvie is, because I guess they need Sylvie's help to save the time. Now I'm like, yeah, because the timeline's now dying, because basically what happened was He Who Remain kept the multiverse from going out of control. And so I guess there has to be someone. And yeah, that is one of the more confusing parts now I'm thinking about it, about the show, is like they had to save the multiverse. Someone has to overwatch the timeline or else. And they said the first season, variants of He Who Remains, aka Kang the Conqueror, would come in and just start a multiversal war. But in the show, everyone just turned into spaghetti. So in my mind, it's supposed to be like, okay, Kang the Conqueror's coming in and just fucking shit up, and we got to stop Kang from fucking shit up. That's why I thought, and it wasn't like that at all. So they had to find Sylvie to get more information to help, or I guess they're trying to find information on Sylvie. I don't even know why they needed Sylvie. I think just to figure out, and then one of the generals named Dox prunes a bunch of timelines and just saves them a bit more time for going undone. So yeah, basically they had to get Brad from a timeline. It's actually a very enjoyable to watch. Like listening to me explain it just sounds fucking dumb. So yeah, so they're like looking for Brad. They're trying to find out where Sylvie is and to save the world, save the multiverse. And so that's how that ends. They eventually, and they have to put Dox in jail and stuff like that. That Dox storyline didn't really go very far. I think it was just an excuse to be like, we're going to prune a bunch of timelines. That way they have more time to figure it out or something like that. But then Casey finds Ravona's temp pad, and then, then they go into episode 3. Probably is going to be one of the most memorable episodes of this show. Because, like, the whole thing is 1893 Chicago World's Fair. Like, that's the whole setting of the show. And you don't necessarily get a ton of 1893 Chicago World's Fair in Marvel. It doesn't really come up much. And so, basically, I guess what they're doing at this point is they have to find Victor Timely, who is a variant of He Who Remains, but not like an evil one. The one that basically what Ravonna did was she took the TVA guide handbook, gave it to a young Victor Timely. Victor Timely turns out to be Kang, even though Kang is also a variant from the 31st century. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. I think me explaining it is just making this all sound worse. So I'm going to ruin the show for everyone. Basically, they need Victor. They need his temporal aura and anything else he can do to help save the timeline, because he's making a time loom. Basically, the idea is that the timeline is like, if you look at rope and like you see what rope is, it's also just a bunch of little ropes put together to make a big rope. Kind of what the timeline is, and the loom puts it all together and stuff like that. More about that. Basically they get Victor, and you think, like, the whole time I'm watching the show, I'm just like, Victor, obviously it's a Kang variant, like, this dude's up to some shit, and turns out I don't think he was up to any shit. I think he was just there to help save the multiverse before he turned evil, and that's what spared his life from Sylvie, who was going to kill any variant. And then it happens. So basically they get him, and episode 4 is like where it gets really, because like Sylvie like threw Renslayer at the end of time, but she had a temp pad. Stuff like that. The Ravonna, I will say this, I love this show, and I think Gugum Bathura, terrific Ravonna Renslayer, but I don't know how that story really didn't go. Her story didn't really go super far. Basically, episode 4. It's just basically a civil war in the TVA, basically, and they're trying to see who's who, and eventually they figured out they can deactivate the magic suppressant in the TVA. And you thought there was gonna be something like different, like, in WandaVision they made the rule that if you make runes or whatever, only the person who made the runes can do the magic, and so you thought it was like all magic, and turns out it's like not that. So basically what happens is that everyone's having shit with each other, and everyone needs Victor, wants Victor Timely, and so eventually what happens is they mind control Brad, and then Brad prunes Ravonna, and you don't hear from her the rest of the series until the very end. And then basically they're like, all right, Victor, go down the time loom and expand it or whatever. And he immediately walks out, turns to spaghetti. Then everyone turns to spaghetti, and that's how the episode ends. And waiting a whole week for that, you're like, what the fuck is going to go on now? Like, you don't know. It's like, oh, is the multiverse, is the world just gone? Like, is everything gone? And then, you get into episode 5, and basically this episode was a very convenient way for them to go over, like, what was everyone's life before they were brought into the TVA. And so you like Mobius, or I think his name was like Don. And I don't think he said wow in the show, so I'm also upset about that. He was like a jet ski salesman, Sylvia obviously just works at McDonald's. That's all she does. Brad, I think, was an actor, but he didn't come back. Casey, he was one of the prisoners who escaped Alcatraz. B-15, she was a doctor. And then OB, he was just like a science fiction author and professor and stuff like that. So, like, you get to see, like, where everyone's lives was, before they were taken by the TVA. And, you didn't get to know what was their... And, yeah, that is still something else that you didn't get. Like, what was Sylvie's Nexus event that... They're called Nexus events, right? That caused a branching timeline. And they never explained that, but only in, like... Oh, yeah, it was probably when Ravona's memory was wiped, by He Who Remains, and stuff like that. Yeah, so, yeah, you had that as well. And so that was kind of disappointing. You don't know, like, what... Because, like, the only one Well, you know what happened when Sylvie got... when she was arrested by the TVA. She was playing with toys. Like, she was like, I'm going to be a Valkyrie, or whatever. So that was cool, didn't get to hear any of that, so that was cool. And then eventually that episode ends with Loki being able to control his time slipping, and which leads into episode 6. And now in episode 6, very Groundhog's Day, like, where, like, if they mess up, Loki is able to go back in time because he's now able to... He can now just travel throughout time at will, but he has to go through, like, his own temporal aura. A cool, interesting way to do that. Eventually, after millions of tries, probably, they eventually figured out, but they figured out that the timelines that you can expand the loom, but timelines are going to just continue to branch. So you either have to prune some and save what you can, or go from, do what you can. And so Loki has a couple of choices to make. So he could either, now that he can just time travel at will, which is also, they don't explain why he's time slipping much either. I guess just from timely, wimely mumbo jumbo or whatever. So basically they're like, oh, you have to kill Sylvia or else we can't save what we have, or just let everything be destroyed. And so Loki has to make that decision. And then he's like, no, I can rewrite the equation. And so basically what happens is he uses his Loki magic and becomes like the god over time, or he oversees the timelines and stuff like that. It was a really cool sequence too. And then you basically see how the show ends is where I guess B-15 is in charge of the TVA, and it's just to more maintain the timeline and I think their main goal is just to like stop Kang variants, which they're probably not going to do that good of a job at. Just FYI, But and then what was it? Miss Minutes is friendly again for some reason. That was a weird fucking thing. Miss Minutes was like sexually attracted to Victor. That was fucking weird. And that also went nowhere. Ravonna ends up in the void, and it looks like she's being eaten by Eliath. But as the rules of television state, unless you see the dead body, they aren't dead. So what I'm guessing is they kind of showed her looking at like the Sphinx, and we all know that's Ramatut's special Sphinx that was probably pruned. So, so I don't think she's gone. I mean, even then, like a variant will come back or something like that. No one's ever really gone. And then there's still all those Loki variants at the end of time still too, like Kid Loki or whatever. Are they going to bring Kid Loki into the Young Avengers? Which I'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, so, and then, I guess Mobius returns to his old life, Sylvie, and I guess Sylvie's in that life too, I guess. not like together as a couple, but together as friends, And Loki's just, on his throne, glorious purpose, and supposedly that is the end of Loki's story in the MCU, according to Tom Hiddleston on Jimmy Fallon. But just because it's saying it's someone's story has ended doesn't mean they're not going to return, It's kind of like because I think technically they're like, James Gunn's always been like, Peter Quill's story was finished in, I guess for the most part, in Guardians Volume 2, but he's still around. And they're like, the Star-Lord guy will return, whatever. No. Anyways, though, overall, I described it in the worst way possible, but I do have to say, like, it is the best show. Like, explaining it sounds like fucking dumb. So, yeah, there's the time. If you have to explain time travel to someone, you're going to sound like a fucking idiot. But overall, no. It's from going from Secret Invasion to Loki, literally is Marvel going from the worst thing they've ever fucking made to the best Marvel show. Is it, and that's the thing, though, because people always rank by movies, but now, like, I feel like Loki is a contender in there as well. And, yeah, definitely, and, like, it's definitely a show you didn't know what to think about going in, because, like, the rumors I remember hearing about what was going on in the show were, it was like, basically, Kang is going to use the Squadron Sinister now to control the TVA or to harass the multiverse, and now the TVA has to go back and stop the Squadron Sinister. And basically, the Squadron Sinister, for those of you who don't know, and I'm surprised they haven't really done anything with in a Marvel movie yet, they're basically the same power set as the Justice League, but they're like villains and they're like parodies. I mean, that's the whole point of it, was like they're a parody of the Justice League, but they're villains and stuff like that. And like Henry Cavill was going to play Hyperion, which is basically Superman of that group. So yeah, hopefully they'll bring that back. I think that'd be I think once they start when the main focus of the MCU is going to start being like X-Men and mutants and stuff like that, I think they would be perfect then. Yeah, Sylvie got a new haircut. I know it was like a mullet to be like a very 80s haircut. It didn't look good. I missed that season 1 haircut. I don't know. It just looked better to me, in my opinion. I don't know. Who do you like, the new Sylvie haircut or the old one? I prefer the old one. Those are like chicks I hang out with have hair like that. But yeah, I'm really curious, in regards to where this will go, and this was part of the multiverse saga, because if you think about the Infinity Saga, you think about like, okay, what movies actually involved, you would say, the Infinity Stones or / Thanos, at all, you would think like Captain America, maybe the first, I don't think the first Thor, Captain America, the first Avenger, then I think the Avengers. Do they bring up? Yeah, the Avengers. Then Guardians. First Guardians. A little bit. The post-credit scene of Winter Soldier. Then Age of Ultron. That used the Mind Stone. And then not even Civil War. Civil War is just important to know that like the heroes split up. Like not every story is involving the multiverse, but this was a multiverse story. And obviously I'm curious where they're going to go from there. I think, obviously the Marvels had something. We're going to talk about that in a bit involving the multiverse, but I think that next multiverse thing that's officially a multiverse thing coming up is Deadpool 3, and definitely curious about where they're going to go with that. Because the one, it's like Marvel parody, and they always have like the 20th Century Fox in the void. So is it going to like parody this or whatever? I'm curious too, because I guess they're going to bring back a lot of the Fox, and then we already know all the Spider-Men are in here too. So yeah, hopefully Marvel has communication. Like I said, I think they can land on their feet with Secret Wars. I'm a definite believer in that. Okay. And now we are moving on to the Marvels. I saw that in theaters, and so I wanted to talk about it. So I guess we're going to put up the timestamp here. right now is where the timestamp is for you if you need to skip. This part is just a text on the screen, and the text will also be in the bottom, I guess the bottom, the description of this episode too. So it'll just say like skip Marvel spoilers. All right, I think everyone's gone now. All right, time to spoil the movie. So the way, sometimes, with this being work and like having to like plan schedule out everywhere in between with this to be able to see the movie, between like band rehearsals and teaching and stuff like that, the best time for me to watch this was 4 p.m. Thursday, the day before the release, because we can't do midnight premieres anymore. And so movies, no one's wanting to really go to movies much anymore, and Marvel's really taking a hit because like they're not fully making like the worst content you've ever seen. It's just no one cares enough to go to the theaters, and the strikes just ended. Like both actors and writer strikes just ended, so now they can finally start promoting it. And it's crazy to think that like how much the like actors doing press really actually does help promote movies, because like because you watch, like, remember Secret Invasion, it was garbage, but you didn't have like Sam Jackson going on Jimmy Kimmel or like the rest of the cast going on Jimmy Kimmel and stuff like that because of the writer's strike. And then once the writer's strike ended, but then the actor strike was still going on, like you couldn't have anyone going in to like promote any movies. And so I think it's a real big thing to say like, hey, I think these press tours really do help movies a lot for the most part. But I went 4 p.m. on the Thursday, and there were like 5 other guys in the theater, and they all had like similar vibes to me. And we also all know that Brie Larson is the love of my life, and so I think we all figured out that Brie Larson has a type, and that type is of men who are in love with her, and they're guys and it's guys like me. So that was not nothing, but yeah. So basically, to sum up the story from what I remembered it, back in the 90s, after the first Captain Marvel movie, Carol decided to go to Hala, which is the planet that the Kree live on. I guess like their home world. They like colonized half the galaxy, but like this is their home world, And they had the Supreme Intelligence, which was like an AI that helped run the whole thing. Different cultures. It is how it is. So basically, after Carol decided to go in and just fucking yeet the Supreme Intelligence out of existence, the Kree could just in the next 30 years, the Kree were just not able to function. They're just like, so like they like, I don't know how fucking they had a civil war, and I'm assuming like nuclear weapons could really fuck up a planet. That's why we shouldn't be cool about war, guys. Let's stop the war of things I'm not educated on in a place that I don't want to get demonetized for talking about. So yeah, they did that, and like basically the 3 things is their air, they couldn't breathe, like their air was not breathable. They didn't have any water, which apparently you need in a plane, even like ocean water, I guess. Like you still need, I guess it helps with oxygen or whatever, or that breathing and clean drink. I guess you can make clean drinking water out of it. And then their sun was just not, which I don't know how that works. Maybe it was just its time, And well, let's also not forget that there is a celestial egg inside of this planet too, because all planets are made by celestials, and they put a baby in the planet, and then once it gets a lot of people there, it breaks the planet in half and creates other planets. We forgot about that. We forgot about that part. It's almost like these movies are having a hard time connecting these days. So yeah, basically, Darben, apparently they have the technology to just take like those resources from planets. Like the first planet they took it from was the Skrull colony. Remember how all the Skrulls, remember in Secret Invasion, I know we're all trying to forget it, but remember when Talos was like, so there's Emperor Droja's colony, and then all the other Skrulls are on planet Earth. And we got to see Droja's colony. And also remember in Secret Invasion when they were like, at the end of it, they're like, if you're a fucking Skrull, we're going to fucking kill the shit out of you. We're going to like fucking murder you. When the president of the United States was like that. And then, yeah, remember when a bunch of Skrulls got killed and then they're like, show's over. And they're like, what? So yeah, now, although I guess that every Skrull in the universe is on planet Earth now because they had Valkyrie, which apparently they spoiled with the previews. I think at that point I stopped watching the trailers and stuff like that. And so now every Skrull is on Earth, okay? And they could have made I don't know. So yeah, so then next they're going to this planet that's like all water, and it was like 99 point something % water, and it's like I feel like they probably have some water to spare. Like Earth is 70%, and even then we're like, if there was a planet that was just like, hey, let's make a trade. Our planet needs water. Your planet probably needs to stay alive. So we could probably make a good trade. And it would help with the global warming thing. Cause I don't know. Would eliminating like 20% of the Earth's water, like the ocean water, not like the real water we drink, like would that fuck up our planet, or like would we just be fine? Because I feel like if 50% of the planet's water, I feel like we'll still be fine. Even then, we're like, I think we have more water than we need. And on that planet, they just fucking sing all the time. And they're like, some people were watching it, you're like, the singing planet, like, some people are gonna love this, and some people are gonna fucking shoot their brains out. Or they're gonna be.
When you drink alcohol?
And stuff like that. And yeah, eventually they're gonna try to take the Earth's sun. They're all taking the stuff that revolves around Carol because she destroyed the planet. Now they're gonna destroy, you know how revenge works. Then eventually, you know how these movies work. Dar-Benn rips a hole in space-time, and Monica has to stitch it back up, but it has to be on the other side, which is another universe altogether. Specifically, the universe with Kelsey Grammer's Beast. So we had to get her to that planet because like I said, I'm glad because, people thought it was kind of like a cheap thing, but I'm like, we're telling them, they're supposed to be telling like an overarching multiverse story. I feel like if someone has the ability to open a hole in space-time and to other universes, I feel like the multiverse is going to come up. So yeah, that's how the movie ends with Kelsey Grammer's Beast. And Iman Vellani, like I said, perfect choice for Miss Marvel. You can hate this movie as much as you want, but you can't. But if I say Iman Vellani was amazing in that movie, you'd be like, yeah, I agree with you. She's just a perfect choice. You can actually, she's an actor and she's great, but you'd also like know that she wants to be there. Where like sometimes you get Marvel actors and like they put in their work, but sometimes I play gigs too, and like I don't always want to play every gig I get, but sometimes you do it, and I think she's like writing Miss Marvel comics now, which is rad. They definitely need someone like that doing the comics and stuff like that. Overall, I give this movie a 7 out of 10. If someone gives it a 6 out of 10, I think it's fine. Anything lower or higher than 6 or 7 out of 10, I'm going to say, because this movie, clearly pacing in this movie was off. Clearly there was like some behind the scene dramas, I guess, with it. And so from what it felt like watching the movie, it felt like, so Marvel's strategy is they make the movie, they watch the movie, they figure out what they don't like, what they want to add, what they need to change, yada, yada, yada. And then once they figure that out, they do reshoots. And usually before that, we have to do reshoots to the movie. It means like, oh, this movie probably sucks ass. But like with Marvel, it's like, the movie sucks ass right now, but we can change it. And then they usually make it work out. This movie doesn't feel like they had the opportunity for reshoots. It felt like there was because it felt like they had a good movie, but they did not get all the appropriate things in there to make it a solid movie, if that makes sense. It felt like they just tried to cut together what they had, and they made it work. They made it work with what they had. And like I said, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, I think is a perfect rating. I think Darben did have good motivations. She's like, you know, like even if I die in this process, like I want to save my world, you know, at least like good motivations. I consider this movie overall to be like what to expect out of a Marvel movie, because I feel like what Marvel has been, minus Secret Invasion, because that was just garbage, it's always been like acceptable, amazing. And so we've just been getting a lot of acceptable. Like Ant-Man and the Wasp, it was better than you thought. Everyone just thought, they were upset that Kang died, so he's like, well, I think that's what's making it interesting. If we're going to introduce like 500,000 variants of Kang, I think like, one-on-one, I think Kangs would lose, but they have to realize they have to team up together to work together, and that's also a problem as well. So, yeah. But like, yeah, I think this movie leads into Deadpool 3 at least a little bit. It does. Because I guess Monica's in the Fox X-Men universe with some changes to it where her mom's in it too. Will this affect Deadpool 3? I don't know, but dude, Kelsey Grammer. I think Kelsey Grammer's a good Hank McCoy, just like an older Hank McCoy. You know, it's like, yeah, he can fuck you up, but he's probably not going to. So overall, don't say the Marvel sucks. If you don't like women, I will tell you this: if you don't like women, you're probably not going to like the Marvels. Just giving you a little heads up, because there's 3 women leads. And then the villain is also a woman. So if you don't like women, you're probably not going to like that movie. If you do enjoy women and you think women are good and they make good content and stuff like that, I do think you'll enjoy it. You'll see the flaws in the movie, but I think you'll overall enjoy it. I think it's definitely 10 times better than Secret Invasion.
How do I breathe?
Thank you for watching this clip. Watch it again or watch something